everybody. Welcome to Explain Strange, a podcast where magic, mystery, and the craft collide. Join us as we explore the ancient art of witchcraft from its roots in folklore to modern day practices. Whether you're a seasoned practitioner or simply curious about the mystical world, each episode will guide you deeper into the realms of spells, rituals, and the untold secrets of the witching world. Grab your wand, light your candle, and step into the circle. Your magical journey begins now. The views and opinions expressed on this podcast is solely of the creator, host, co-host, and guest, and may not necessarily reflect the views, thoughts, and opinions of the listeners and viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. So you guys may be wondering, where am I at today? Because it's a little bit different view than normal. So today we are at a metaphysical shop in Mount Airy, North Carolina. And I'm here and I'm going to speak to Christy Boyd. She works here, but she also is a practicing witch. She's going to share her thoughts and takes on how it's affected her life and how she uses it every day, and also about metaphysical and how it can help you. So Christy, come on in. So
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
How are you?
I'm good. So we're just going to start off with some of our questions. We're going to start out with witchcraft and talking about that, and then we'll move into the metaphysical stuff.
Okay.
So, of course, obviously, the very first question is, what drew you to witchcraft, and how did you start practicing in it?
Well, actually, I guess it starts when I was little, and I used to watch shows like The Addams Family and The Munsters and things like that, and so they didn't do a whole lot of actual witchcraft per se,
right?
But there was some of the kind of paranormal stuff and things like that going on, and so I as a little kid, I was like, "Ooh, that's cool stuff,"
right.
And so then, as I got a little bit older, I grew up in a Presbyterian church.
Okay.
And, the things that they were saying, it just didn't feel right.
Yeah.
It didn't click. It never felt like home.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I was probably about, 12 or 13, maybe around in there.
Okay.
I started, watching other TV shows and, seeing things about ghosts and talking to spirits and, things like that. And that piqued my interest. And then, of course, I started reading books. And so then I started, kind of, at that point, I'll say dabbling a little bit. And I learned that witchcraft really is more about working on yourself than people really realize.
Right.
And so, it just kind of went on from there.
Okay. All right. And so how do you define magic, and how do you incorporate it into your daily life?
Okay, so first of all, let's take witchcraft.
Okay.
The words witchcraft. Okay, so witch is basically, back in the day, you take the root word of that, wit, which means know.
Okay.
Right? So that's knowledge.
Right.
And goes into, like, wise. Craft is a skill set. Sometimes containing magic, which is basically causing change to happen in conformity with the will.
Okay.
And that's kind of paraphrasing Crowley, I guess.
Right.
Really.
Yeah.
And so basically what you're doing with magic is, you have like different correspondences with things. Like, there's things to do with colors. There's things to do with, the elements and everything like that. And it all kind of comes together to, create change. If you believe.
Yeah.
And so you can do anything with intent. I mean, drinking a cup of coffee, stirring it a certain way, and, having in your head, something like, may this day bring me good luck, or, whatever.
Right.
That's magic.
Yeah.
That's witchcraft.
Mm-hmm.
And also, okay, so
You're sorry. It's okay. It's a lot to explain.
Yeah, because this is like opening a whole big can of worms.
Right.
But I mean, you can use it for you can use it to change things within yourself. You can use it as a way to bring more positivity in your life. Self-love. I mean, just there's all kinds of things that you can do.
Right. Okay. Now, since we're on that topic, before I move ahead,
okay,
I know there are some people that I've heard that practice witchcraft that may not necessarily like Wicca as a whole or paganism. Why is that?
Okay.
And I've been told it's because it is a what is that, like, where like kind of like Christianity is a like
organized religion.
Yes,
and they have
they have like rules.
They have a structure. They have rules. They have everything. Okay, so I do have a little bit of history or experience, in Gardnerian witchcraft. So Gerald Gardner in the 50s brought witchcraft over here, or he brought Wicca. Right. See, even I do it.
His form. Oh.
Right. And so what that is, basically, he was supposedly, and this can be looked up, he was supposedly initiated from a lady named Dorothy Clutterbuck. And they referred to her as Old Dorothy. And it's kind of it's a modern take on some, there's some historical validity to it, but not a whole lot. Right. Like they incorporated a little bit of Italian strega in it as well. If you read any of his books, or Janet and Stuart Farrer actually were students of his, and they wrote I don't know if you've ever heard of the Witch's Bible Complete. No. Okay. I don't know. I really don't know if that's even in print anymore. But that is, they explained more of what he did and everything. But Wicca in itself, I'm kind of rambling here, I'm sorry. Wicca in itself is a religion that incorporates witchcraft within it. Oh. But Wicca and witchcraft are two totally separate things. And there are some people who use those terms synonymously, but there are people out here that will actually say you can't call yourself a witch unless you're following the threefold law. Okay, the threefold law is completely separate and incorporated within Wicca. Right. And one of the main reasons that I left practicing Wicca is because it was so structured and so ceremonial, and it just didn't, I was paying more attention to getting the wording right and getting all the things right. Right. And it just zapped the magic plumb out of it for me. And so...
And following it basically how they want you to, not make it.
Yeah, exactly. You have a set of, you have to cast a circle. And for those of you that don't know, the circle is like a circle of protection or whatever. And I mean, a lot of witches, what they call solitary, and that's somebody who practices by themselves. A lot of them actually do a circle of protection. I do it from time to time. Sometimes I'm more, okay, so I'm descendant from Appalachian people, folk people. And, you pretty much grabbed what you had on hand and did things quick, fast, and in a hurry, whatever, And so you still need to protect yourself. But sometimes protecting yourself can be as simple as just like imagining yourself with either white light surrounding you or putting yourself in a bubble.
Yeah.
They used to call me a bubble witch on some of the forums and stuff. Oh, we need protection. Put them in a bubble. Right. I mean, so, right. I mean, one thing about it, the beauty of witchcraft in general is that you can take it and tailor it to whatever you want to do. It's your craft. It's your skill set.
Mm. Yeah.
And so that's one of the misconceptions. You don't have to follow everything that you see.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you read, and I'm not saying don't read a book.
Right. Yeah.
But when you read a book, you don't have to come in and think that, you know, you have to buy all the magical implements. You know, you don't have to spend $300 on a double-edged knife and all this stuff. And I mean, when you're doing the circle, right here's all you need.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's nice to, you know, be able to have the things. And some people work a lot better with that.
Right.
With something to actually focus everything on. Mm-hmm. And that's, you know, that's where like wands and even, you know, crystals themselves come in. It's a way of focusing the power.
Mm-hmm.
Or, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, can you explain some of the different types of witchcraft, such as like green? I know we spoke a little bit on hedge earlier, but if you're not too familiar with that one, can you explain some of the other ones that like fall within that?
Okay. So like, for example, green witches. Mm-hmm. Green witches usually use primarily herbs in their practices. One thing, this is kind of going back, but it all ties in together. Okay. One thing, not all witches use magic. Some witches just use the knowledge that they have to heal, or, you know, like I said, bring about the positive changes and stuff. And a green witch is going to use primarily herbs, essential oils, things from plants.
Okay.
And that's, you know, that's what we mean by green. Okay. Sometimes you have energy witches. And they are going to use just primarily the, you know, energy is one of those things where it's neither good nor bad. It just is. Right. And it, you know, your intention is what drives it. Mm-hmm. Let's see, I'm trying to think. There are witches that work primarily with each of the elements. Okay. You know, you have like, you know, some that work with just grounding the earth. Right. Some that work with fire. And what I mean by working with fire is there's actually like types of what they call scrying, which is where you're seeing shapes and images in something. Right. Some people use mirrors. Some people use crystal balls. Some people use fire. Okay. Or the clouds. Mm-hmm. So, okay. Yeah.
All right. Now, I know some people say that you have to choose. Do you want to be of the light or more on the dark side? Does that come from like Wicca, like, or can you do both?
Like I said, energy is neither good nor bad. Right. And the knowledge that you have is neither good nor bad. Right. It's all in the intention and how you use it. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you have people, and I'm not judging or anything, but you have people who are going to be, you know, only positivity, only good, the threefold law, karma, and everything. Right. And then you have the people who basically are do no harm but take no crap. Right. And there are bad things that happen for good reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it just depends on which, you can choose.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can do a little bit of both. There's some people like to talk in terms of black, white, and gray.
Mm-hmm.
And for explanation, for
right.
to explain it better, sometimes that's a better way of just using that. But the reality is, like I said, magic is neither good nor bad.
Right.
A doctor has all this knowledge, but they can either heal you,
right.
or they can go rogue and they can kill you with their knowledge.
Absolutely.
So it's it's the same thing.
Mm.
And really, there's a balance.
Right.
There's a balance to everything. And you can't really, if you had only good and the scale went only one way, it's going to upset
the balance.
everything.
Right.
So,
okay.
I'm sorry, I talked with my hands.
Now, I know, I don't know if this necessarily applies to you, but do deities or spirits or ancient, like your ancestors, play a role in your craft?
Yes. A lot of people, and I do as well, work with especially the ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
I have my family spirits that I believe work with me, and help me out. And some people do deity work. Now, I have, over the years, sometimes I have and sometimes I haven't.
Right.
And so deity work is one of those things where, if you look at archetypes, then you can either, some people practice in a way that they feel that the deity is separate from them.
Mm-hmm.
And then other people are using those archetypes within themselves, if that makes sense. It's like, how do I want to explain it? It's kind of like bringing, okay, for instance, let's just use, I'm sorry, we're going to use Loki as an example.
Okay.
All right, so that's a very misunderstood deity for one thing. But he's the bringer of chaos. Okay. But yet he's really quick-witted and he gets you out of the chaos. Mm-hmm. All right. So you can either see him as a separate deity, or you can bring those things within you. It's kind of like, for lack of a better way of putting it, it ends up being kind of like, what would Loki do in this situation? Mm-hmm. And you bring that quick wit to get yourself out of a jam. Mm-hmm. That kind of thing.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it does. Now, what is your approach to creating and working with spells? Do you believe intent is the most important?
Yes. Your intentions drive the spell to work. Right. And this is where also, like, certain correspondences come in. And I guess we'll bring the crystals into it. Okay, so like this is rose quartz. Mm-hmm. And this is primarily used for loving feelings, the love between friends. Right. Bringing more love into the world itself. Mm-hmm. Or whatever. And you basically, you'll have a crystal or whatever to work with. Sometimes, like I said, props. Mm-hmm. Right. They really do help. And so there are, in the metaphysical sense, there are certain properties, like I said, that the rose quartz has, and there are different vibrations. And some people who are sensitive to the vibrations of the stones can actually hold a piece of rose quartz in their hand and feel the loving feelings wash over them. Right. this is also used not only, and I'm not talking about love spells.
Right.
A lot of people believe, I myself included, that you don't mess with free will.
Right.
And even the ones that don't follow the threefold law, there are still things that they will not do.
Mm-hmm.
And you can bring more loving feelings to yourself, because it's kind of like attracts like.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you love yourself,
right,
then more people.
Yeah, that's what I tell a lot of people. Like, you have to
Mhm.
love yourself before you
Exactly.
can really love anybody, or they can love you.
Mhm.
So,
And that's a lot of what witchcraft involves, is working on yourself.
right, yeah.
A lot of people come to it from, a lot of trauma in their life.
Mm-hmm.
Also, something called religious trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Feeling that, they're wrong for thinking certain things or whatever.
Right.
And that's really not the case.
Yeah.
And so, you're working on yourself. You're working on your own mindset. And a lot of it has to do with self-love.
Let's see. So, how do you navigate both skepticism from not only within yourself, but others? So,
well, a lot of skepticism and negative thoughts toward witchcraft or paganism in general comes from a lot of misunderstanding.
Right.
People just don't know, and they fear or go against what they don't know.
Yeah.
Some people look at you and they'll be like, well, wiggle your nose and make something happen for me. And that's really not how that goes.
Right. Yeah.
So the word witch literally just means to know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of, going back to that, is kind of how the whole Wicca and witch thing kind of got confused, because back in the day, it was like I can't remember, it was Wicca, Wicca, and Wicce was male and female witch.
Right.
And so that kind of, went on to kind of get confused and all lumped together, and that's where that comes from. But as far as, like I said, with the skeptics, I try to explain as much as I can. Right. But some people are just not going to hear it. Some people are like, not going to hear it. Everything, if it's not, if you're not doing certain things in their view, right, then you're evil.
Right. So, what are some common misconceptions about witchcraft that you would like to clear up?
Okay, so we've covered a few of them. Right. But one of the biggest things is, we do not work with the devil. We don't know him. I mean, okay, so with my past and being raised as, Presbyterian, of course, I know of him. But I do not work with the devil. Right. And witchcraft, like I said, it is a very positive thing. When used for positivity. Right. There are some who will, there are some witches who do what they call baneful magic. And again, like I said, sometimes baneful magic is for a good reason. Right. To stop a criminal, to, to keep somebody from hurting themselves and other people. Right. But that is not, I myself do not go as far as causing harm, even on somebody who has done something to me or my family.
Mm.
You know, I don't wish death on anybody.
Right.
And, you know, that's also, you know, that's a common misconception too, is that all witches are just, you know, bad people. You know, we're sitting back here and we're, you know, causing people to unalive.
Yeah.
and things like that. And it's just not true. Also, there was another where I was going with that. Go ahead and ask me another question just in case.
Okay.
I'll get back to
another
it.
question that I have that was asked was, so people that do practice like Satanism, so to say, like, are they doing spells, or is that something like completely different?
Okay, so a lot of Satanists today are following a man named Anton LaVey.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And it's philosophical Satanism, as opposed to actually worshiping the devil. And I mean, I'm sure there are some out there that actually profess to worship Satan. But in LaVeyan Satanism, it's more like the number one holiday is your birthday. You know, it's all about
that's
the
what I was
person.
going to say. Like, I kind of read it was more like worshiping yourself.
Yes.
So to say.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
That's my take on it. Now, I did. I briefly read some of the Satanic Bible when I was younger, and that's really what it is. It's a philosophy more than an actual. And I mean, there are satanic witches, but they're more that helping yourself and being, you know, kind of being selfish,
right?
You know, that's more. And you know, correct me if I'm wrong.
Right.
But that was my take on some of it. And I mean, you know, they do practice some magic, but I'm not sure exactly what all kind of magic they perform. Right. But a lot of times when you hear people in the news and they're, you know, they were claiming, oh, well, I did it because, you know, the devil made me do it or whatever. I don't think that's the Satanism that we're talking about.
Right. So. Okay. Now, how do the cycles of the moon and the turning of like the wheel of the year affect your craft? Do you use anything with that, or?
Like with the full moon, mainly in my practice, I use the full moon to charge like my crystals and things like that. And there are witches that more use the cycles of the moon, like the waning moon is used to get rid of things that don't serve you or whatever. The waxing moon, when it's growing to fullness, is you're using that to grow. Like you have an intention, you set an intention, and then let's say for abundance or for, you know, more good luck or whatever. And as the moon grows, then your intention and your whatever you set your intention for also grows, if that makes sense. Yeah. And I keep going out of the.
Oh, you're fine. Now, like, do you do like the moon water, or is that more like not your thing?
Now I have made moon water. I've charged, like I said, I've set out and made moon water. I charge my crystals, and I use the moon more that way than actually do. Some people perform rituals during the moon, and I don't personally, but I like to.
Okay. Now, how do you work with the herbs and crystals and other natural elements?
Okay, so a lot of what I do with the herbs would be, okay, so like you have like I was saying earlier, correspondences. So some herbs are for certain certain manifesting certain things.
Right.
Words aren't wording. Sorry. But like, say for instance, bay leaves are good for wishes and things like that. And then you would take like a bay leaf, write your wish on it, and then you could burn it. And then it's said that your intention then goes up to the universe, or whoever your deity, whatever your higher power is. And not everybody, just as an aside, not everybody works with deities at all. As I was saying, witchcraft is you take what feels right and you leave what doesn't. And you tailor it to however you want to do it. I use essential oils the same way I would use the herbs. You can use certain oils to dress a candle. And, there are certain ways, everything has symbolism to it.
Right.
And so, like, let's say you're wanting to bring more abundance into your life, abundance and luck. You'd use a green candle. That's the color. And then you would dress it like with cinnamon, or there's actually blends that people make, money drawing oil, or whatever. And then also your actions when you're holding the candle, you dress it towards you. You put the oil on it towards you. You put the herbs on it towards you because you're trying to bring it to you. Same way, like with protection, you're going to go away. You want the negativity to go away. Right. Everything is symbolic. So,
okay.
Yeah. If that answers your question without rambling.
Oh yeah, I've done like the bay leaves, and then I've also got some names in my freezer. Freezing spells.
Well, there's that. Yep.
So yeah.
And I mean, to me, that is, some people would see that as a negative thing.
Right.
You've not really, this is just my opinion, but you've not really messed with their free will.
Right.
It's a gray area. But it's not like you haven't dominated them.
Right.
You haven't, in my way, you really haven't stopped them from being them. It's just that you've stopped that negativity from entering your life.
Right.
You've set a boundary. There's nothing wrong with setting boundaries.
No. Sometimes you have to do that.
Yes. So. Sometimes you have to do that for your protecting your peace is more important.
Right.
In my opinion.
Right. So what role do ethics and responsibility play in your practice?
Well, I am responsible for what I do, and nobody else.
Right.
I don't blame it on you. You don't blame it on the deity. You don't. I take full responsibility for my actions.
Right.
And it's kind of like, it's kind of like the scales. You have You have all the. Oh my gosh! Oh, just a second.
Okay.
I'm sorry about
You're
that. I should have. I didn't even think about it. Excuse me. Oh. Sometimes these phones are smarter than I am.
Oh, yeah, I know, right? You think you done something, and then there it goes blaring at you.
Mm-hmm. There we go. That should have quieted it down. It was a spam caller.
Gotta love those.
Okay, where were we?
Talking about ethics and responsibility.
Okay, and therein goes, like the threefold law and everything. Mm-hmm. Okay, so all magic comes with a price, and it's basically, every action has an equal and opposite reaction, right? And I mean that's true. Mm-hmm. But there's no way to measure it, and so but we are all responsible for what we do, right, and what we cause. Mm-hmm. I mean, right. It's kind of escaping me how to really explain that. The words aren't.
Yeah, kind of like basically know whatever you do, there's an action cost that may come back.
Mm-hmm. There's a consequence, to every action, and
and that can just be like with everyday normal life, not just.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that's true for everything. If I get mad and I kick a table, my toes probably gonna hurt. Right. I mean, yeah, it's just each person is responsible for how far they're willing to go, and they need to be able to take what's
gonna come back,
the consequence of that action.
Right.
Yeah.
So, how do you view the intersection of witchcraft and feminism?
In my opinion, better to say female witches and male witches. Right. But, you have, there is a big movement in witchcraft and even some forms of Wicca. And they totally cut the men out, and it's all women, and it's all about femininity, and that's great. But I still believe in balance. Yeah. So
let's see. Let's go ahead and start into like the metaphysical stuff. So what does the term metaphysical mean to you, and how does it shape like your view on things?
Okay, so for me, metaphysics is like, the energies and vibrations of things. And, like we were saying with the crystals, like with the rose quartz, the metaphysical properties of the rose quartz are like the loving feelings and the soft vibrations that come off of it. And then, each, crystal has, its different properties and stuff. Right. And it's really, for me, metaphysics encompasses the whole, from intentions and, it's physics, but yet it's the physics that you don't see with the naked eye. Right. If that makes any sense. And that's pretty much what it means to me. Okay. And in my daily practice and things like that.
Okay. So how did you begin working here at Cosmic Wander?
Okay, so you want the actual literal story?
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. Okay. All right, so literally, me and my sister were at the skating rink with our kids, right? And the kids were out there skating. My son's a little bit older, and he was watching my little niece, her daughter, and I'm sitting there just piddling around on my phone, and I don't know why I did it. Because there's no metaphysical stores in Mount Airy. I mean, But I'm just like, metaphysical stores near me on Google. Blah, blah. And all of a sudden, there it is. And I looked at my sister and I said, oh my God, we're in trouble. She said, what? I said, there's a witchy store here. And then that day, when she was going to close, at like 5 or 6, we were leaving early from the skating rink, and I was like, I'm going over there. Mm-hmm. And I did, and that's when I met Mary, the owner of the shop. Mm-hmm. And I can't even tell you the first thing I bought from this shop. And it was a Labradorite pendulum. Okay. And she and I struck up a conversation, and then I started being a frequent customer. Mm-hmm. And then, one day I decided that, I was like, well, you know what? I'm just going to go up there and apply and just see. And I talked to her, and at that particular time, it didn't work out. The schedule, there was some scheduling difficulties. Mm-hmm. My availability wasn't what she was looking for. Mm-hmm. But then a few months later, I got a phone call one morning to meet her for coffee. And the rest, as they say, is history.
All right. Yeah, I did not know that there was a store like this here. I was actually searching because when I worked for Harley, I would work for marketing. Mm-hmm, and so we actually had an event, and it was the Gay Pride event that we went to downtown. Uh-huh. And where we were at, we were kind of close to the metaphysical store that used to be there. Mm-hmm. And I went and I looked, and they just didn't have the same vibe as y'all have. So, so I was scrolling through more, and they were seemed further and further away because I live in King. So, right. I found this, and I was like, okay, well, I'll go. And the first time, come, I was like, yeah, this is, they're friendly. Y'all don't ask, if somebody has a question, y'all don't act like, oh, well, you should know that. What are you doing here? Yeah. That was basically kind of the vibe from some other places.
Yeah. And I mean, I myself, when I was first starting out with this, there was a couple of shops one in Winston. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I learned a lot there, but it just, I don't know. There are different vibes in different places, and some people, and I mean, I'm not trying to bash anybody, but sometimes it's almost like it's just a job. Mm-hmm. They're in there for a paycheck, and or whatever. Right. And we try here, not to be that way. Everybody that works here, either practices or has some form of knowledge or whatever. We all have different things that we bring to the table. Right. And to me personally, it's more than just a job. I mean, I love when somebody comes in and I can say something to them, and you can just see it click in their head. And it's very hard in a community that we live in to find people of like mind. Mm-hmm. And that's why when I first started, when I realized she was here, I was like, oh my gosh, there's a community here that I had no idea. Mm-hmm. And so metaphysical shops are a great place to find people of like mind and to know that you're not alone. Mm-hmm. And so we try to make this a safe space, for whatever branch you might be in. Right.
And that was another thing, you have stuff here, for everybody, if they want to practice more, dark or light or whatever. You have stuff for, everybody. Mm-hmm. But one of them in Winston that I went to, mainly it was just stuff for, dark. I mean, oh, goodness. So, yeah. And so I was just like, no, this ain't really particularly for me. So, right. But, but yeah, like you said, you can just walk into some places and feel the vibe is either for you or not for you. So
and we try to cater to everybody from the collector to the practitioner, right, and everybody in between, and all
Yeah.
For lack of a better way of putting it, all shades.
Yeah, exactly.
All shades of magic.
So, what do you think happens after we die, and how does your metaphysical understanding influence your beliefs about the afterlife?
Wow. That's a big question. For me, I do believe in reincarnation.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that I am right here speaking to you, in this body
Mm-hmm.
on a temporary basis.
Mm-hmm.
And energy,
Right.
and that's where metaphysics comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Energy will, the soul or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
however you want to put it, will leave this body.
Right.
And travel on.
Mm-hmm. But do you believe that each time you come back a little bit better, like closer to being like maybe like say higher class, like lots of money? Some people believe that.
Well, I think each trip back here is to learn different lessons.
Right.
And there probably does come a point to where you stop traveling, so to speak.
Now, do you believe that each time you come back as like say a person, or do you believe like you can turn in like say to an animal? I mean,
I'm kind of on the fence with that one. Because I really don't think it's inconceivable that you could come back as an animal, because I'm going to say that I have met quite a few animals that have very human personalities.
Mm-hmm.
So I really don't think it stops in human form.
Yeah. Let's see my next one. So how do practices like meditation, visualization, or like astral projection like fit into metaphysical experience?
In your superhero movies, they start to realize they have powers, but they don't know how to use them, and they can't really do it at will. It just happens until they actually can develop it and pull the reins in, so to speak, rein it in.
Right.
And it's kind of like that, or any type of like spirit communication and things like that. It's not something that in the beginning, or at least it's been in my experience, it's not something that you necessarily can do at will.
Right.
In the beginning. But you learn to be able to do that.
Yeah. No, like I have some abilities. Now I know like I've had dreams where like I will see myself like asleep on the couch or something, but then I'll see myself doing stuff, but I'm still there on the couch, but it's in my dreams. So I guess that's kind of like a form of it. I don't know what necessarily.
Well, that's that kind of goes into what they call out of body experience, OBE.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah.
And do you know that you're dreaming when you do that?
I'm pretty sure I'm dreaming, because I remember like one time I was laying down taking a nap.
Control your actions while you're doing. I didn't mean cut you off.
Like in my dream, control my actions. Yeah, in the one dream I had, I knew I was asleep because I was sleeping on the couch. Like I actually remember laying down to go to sleep on the couch, and in my dream I was asleep, but then I was walking around doing stuff in the house. Like I saw myself doing stuff, and I actually had clothes in the laundry, doing clothes, and that was one of the things that I went to do. And then I woke up and I was like, did I do those clothes? And then I hadn't done those clothes, but I thought, I had done some clothes because I had, but I really hadn't. So it was weird.
Well, that almost sounds like a mix between an out of body experience
sure what I'm doing.
and lucid dreaming, all kind of.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what I'm doing in there.
Yeah. I think you had a couple different things going on there.
Yeah. So,
but I've had things similar. And then I've had dreams so vivid that it was like I literally woke up in a sheer panic because of something that had happened in that dream, and it was so real,
right?
that it just,
or like having dreams and like maybe like you're dreaming about somebody, but like they're like passed away or whatever, but you wake up and it was like it was so real, and then you're kind of like sad because it's like, oh well, that didn't really happen. Like you're happy, but it's like, man, I wish that could happen though. You know what I mean?
That is a visit, I believe.
Yeah. Well, that's how I do a lot of my like medium work is like through my
dream work.
Yes. So like and I have a lot of spirits that like visit like through my dreams.
Yeah.
Now I do have like physical like where I can see spirits here and there, whatever. But it seems like most of my stuff comes through like dreams. Yeah. So
I have dream visits, and for me, it's more. I don't necessarily see them, but I sense them. And I can, there'll be times when, like, for example, you and I would be talking, and then all of a sudden, something will, a phrase or something will come out of my mouth, and the person I'm talking to, like, for example, you would be like, oh my gosh, my grandma used to say the same thing. And I remember, really believe
when I was working over at the Harley place, and my grandfather had passed away, and we were supposed to have an event that day, but I went over there and told them that like I couldn't, do the event, and then my boss, as soon as he walked up to me, he said, "Hey, baby, what you doing?" And that's exactly like what my grandpa would say. He would always say like, "Hey, baby," and so it was like, and I was like, like I can't do this.
Oh my God, Grandpa made him say that.
Yeah. So
but I mean, that stuff really happens, and it happens a lot more than we think.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. The spirits are around us. I fully believe that.
Yeah.
And that is something. That's another thing that scares people.
Yeah.
Because it's like everybody gets it in their head. Oh, ghosts! Ghosts are bad. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, a lot of the things that we, you can. Some people can go into a room and all of a sudden they smell cigar smoke or, pipe tobacco, and it's like, oh, my great grandpa used to smoke a pipe or whatever. Well, I fully believe that grandpa has come through your space and is visiting. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, is there any misconceptions about metaphysical stuff that you would like to clear up?
Well, I'm not sure what all misconceptions are really out there on that as a particular thing.
Right.
So I'm not really sure how to speak on that.
Yeah. I'm not really sure if there's really any on that. I think that might be more like within like you said when we were talking about witchcraft, because these stories are used or whatever. So I think it's kind of like not really per se metaphysical in a whole. It's more like what people are coming here for or whatever.
Well,
essentially, I guess.
Well, you have people that come in every once in a while that are like, they're, oh well, I can't believe that you think that there's there's energy in that rock, or I guess is that kind of what you're and to me it's like how can there not be? There's, to me, I just, it just is. Yeah. And it's like, for me, I don't, it's like you know something, or you believe in something so much, and then it's like, well, and you try to talk to them about, the whole thing, like we were talking about how energy, takes different forms and things like that. And I'm kind of rambling.
It's like a
So,
big,
yeah.
a big umbrella, like a big.
It
Just
is.
we go on and on and on about it.
Yeah.
There's so much stuff. So, I mean, like really though, like there is, like there's just so much.
And there's
stuff.
so many rabbit holes that all of this could go down.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you go so many forks in the road, as so to speak, and you go this way, and then you think that you're at the end of it, and then all of a sudden there's a crossroads.
Yeah,
and it can go this way, and it splits this way, and then this one splits this way, and I mean it's
Well, my last question that I have for you, because we usually do about an hour or whatever. Okay. Can you share the significance that symbols or sacred geometry or like numerology plays?
Well,
if any, or is it more like if that's what the person specializes in, like if that's their thing?
That is, some people specialize in numerology, and the whole thing about like repeating numbers being like angel numbers or divine numbers, or things like that. Mm-hmm. There's power in numbers. Right. There's power in shapes. Mm-hmm. And I can't really speak on each one specifically, mm-hmm. but it all kind of goes back to correspondences, like we were talking about. Right. And like there's one lady, her name is Glennis McCants, mm-hmm. and they call her the numbers lady, and she used to be a guest on a talk show that I used to listen to, mm-hmm. and she believed that like the number 8. Mm-hmm. If you look, that's so funny because that's my favorite number. Like you bring that up. Well, her thing about the number 8 was take the number 8 and put it in your wallet, mm-hmm. and it would help draw in money. Mm-hmm. And if you look at the 8 and put it on its side, it's the symbol for infinity. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so Yeah. And she believed in, numerology goes into where certain numbers, like I said, mean certain things, even in like like your birth date. Mm-hmm. The numbers that are significant to you actually correspond to, it's kind of like astrology, mm-hmm. where the signs kind of predestine you to be a certain way, mm-hmm. like certain things like your life path number, mm-hmm. Kind of dictate how you're going to be in your life. Mm-hmm. Okay, if that makes sense. Yeah. Well, we have definitely covered a lot, and there's definitely lots more that we could cover, like I said, but we would be here probably days. Mm-hmm. So we would have to do different segments. Yeah, definitely. But I definitely appreciate you letting me come here and do this, and Mary, I appreciate her for putting me in contact with you. So I'm glad that y'all wanted to do this. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go ahead and do the outro, unless you have anything else that you would just like to add. I think we've... Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us on this magical and metaphysical journey today. Whether you're exploring the mysteries of the craft or diving deep into the realms of consciousness, energy, we hope you find inspiration and insight. Remember, the path of witchcraft and spirituality is a personal one. Trust your intuition, honor your practice, and keep seeking the magic. Be strong, your energy aligned, and your journey filled with light. Stay enchanted and curious. Thank you, guys. Thanks.